You've seen this, right? Walk into pretty much any home, any coffee shop, and there it is, a toddler, expertly swiping on a tablet, or a preschooler glued to a phone. And it just sparks a ton of questions for parents, for educators, for all of us. Are we doing the right thing here? Well, let's dive into it, because what the research shows is a story that's way more interesting and honestly more exciting than you might think. This is the big one, isn't it? The question that kind of keeps us up at night. When we hear technology in the classroom, our brains just instantly picture kids zoned out in front of screens. We worry we're swapping out messy, hands-on play for these glowing rectangles. And look, that's a totally fair concern. But what if the question itself is a little outdated? This quote from the amazing Sir Ken Robinson, it just nails it. It's the perfect place to start. For kids growing up right now, a tablet or a smartphone isn't some futuristic technology. It's just a thing. It's part of their world, as normal as a box of crayons or a set of building blocks. And once you make that little shift in your thinking, everything else starts to click into place. Okay, so to really get this, we have to zoom out and broaden our own definition of tech. The conversation gets so much better when we realize that tech in a classroom is about a whole lot more than just what's on a screen. You know, that whole screen time debate kind of puts us in a box. It forces this really narrow view. But when researchers actually went and looked at what's happening in these classrooms, they found this incredibly rich, diverse landscape of tools that goes way beyond what we usually imagine. Right, so look at this. Tech really falls into 4 different buckets. Yeah, of course you've got your screen-based stuff like tablets and smartboards. We all know those. But then you have all this other gear, digital cameras, even 3D printers that might not have a screen at all. You've got these amazing exploratory tools like digital microscopes. And then there's the Internet of Toys. You know, things like little coding robots that actually cruise around the classroom floor. Suddenly, the conversation is so much bigger than just which app to download. And that leads us to the next massive idea that came out of all this research. We're seeing that technology isn't just a new bucket of toys. It's actually changing the very rules of how kids play. For so long, we've had this idea that digital play and real play are like oil and water. They just don't mix. We thought of screen time as the thing that stops kids from doing imaginative, physical, messy play. But what the research is showing us now is that's just not true anymore. Those lines are blurring, and the two worlds are actually merging into one. And there's a name for this, which is super helpful. It's called converged play. It's this idea that a kid's physical world and their digital world are so woven together in what they're doing that trying to pull them apart is, well, it's pretty much impossible and kind of pointless. It's not one or the other, it's both at the same time, creating something totally new. So what does this actually look like? Think about it. A kid isn't just putting on a puppet show anymore. They're recording it on a tablet to make their own movie. They're not just crashing Lego cars together. They're filming a high-speed chase scene. They'll even grab old, broken keyboards and use them in their imaginary games. That right there is converged play in action. It's this awesome mix of practices, all mashed together. But here's the thing. None of this just magically happens. The most powerful tool, the most important piece of tech in that classroom, it isn't the tablet or the robot. It's the teacher. The human element here is absolutely everything. Research uncovered this thing they called the digital disconnect. Kids are walking into school every day with all these wild, complicated digital lives from home. They're talking about games, videos, all this stuff. But a lot of the time, educators just don't have a window into that world, and it creates this real gap in understanding. And that disconnect, it's often because teachers have some really valid hesitations. You see 3 main barriers pop up again and again. A lack of solid training, a real worry that tech just doesn't fit with a play-based philosophy, and of course, fears about all the negative impacts we hear about. And these aren't small things. They totally shape whether and how tech is ever used in the classroom. So this is the whole point. A tool is just a tool. It's the teacher, their expertise, their guidance, their questions that turns that piece of plastic and glass into a powerful learning experience. With the right training and support, those hesitations can fade, and teachers can become these incredible guides for kids in this new world of converged play. So, what's the ultimate goal here? Where are we trying to go with all this? Well, when you take this bigger view of technology and you pair it with a skilled, confident teacher, something amazing happens. You can actually shift kids from just being passive consumers of content to being active, powerful creators. But that shift doesn't happen overnight. It has to start with what researchers call epistemic play. That sounds fancy, but it's really just the messing around phase. It's a kid poking and prodding a tablet to see what happens. figuring out how to swipe, how to tap, how to frame a picture with a camera. They're just learning the rules of the tool. You can think of it like a journey in 3 steps. It starts with that exploration, that epistemic play. Once they get the hang of how the tool works, they can move into the second stage, innovation, or ludic play. This is where they start using the tool for their own ideas, for their own stories, like using that camera to film their Lego movie. And that leads to the final step, creation, where they become actual producers of new stuff. And what kind of stuff can they create? Seriously, the possibilities are just incredible. We're talking about kids making their own digital storybooks, creating stop-motion animations, filming little documentaries about their own games, and even keeping scientific journals with photos they took themselves through a digital microscope. They're not just watching media anymore, they're making it.
Okay, so let's zoom back out. After going through all of this, what's the big takeaway? How should we really be thinking about technology in the classroom and in the toy box?
First, it's really important to know that this isn't just one person's opinion or some wild idea. The perspective we've been talking about, it's built on the findings from 35 different peer-reviewed studies from the last 10 years. This is a really solid look at what the actual research is telling us.
And what all that research points to is a really clear conclusion. The debate can't just be about yes tech or no tech anymore. That's the wrong conversation. The real question, the much more interesting one, is how. How can we use these tools in smart, thoughtful ways to support the things we already care about? Play, learning, and creativity. And that really leaves us with this final, critical question. We've seen the mind-blowing potential here, and we know that the teacher is the one who holds the key. So the challenge for all of us, for parents, for school leaders, for policymakers, is this. How can we do a better job of empowering our educators to unlock that potential in every single classroom?